wati. Okuno ye uradiku. Eye uradiku. Ye waku kunewi wati. Yenyami ne bo yenyami. Munsuro, yamemma mumwati. Munsuro tamfono dodo, yamemma mummu. Muma yensuro kuwa yediyo, yamemma mumwati. Okudu ye uradeku, eye uradeku. Ye waku kunewi wati. Yenyami ne bo yenyami. Enti minu yanum mumienfa kukudurum kunkoyenim chitim mumienfa kukudurum kunkoyenim chitim na Yesu Kristo kaya mumi onyauye Mumayen reben kumaneni fai mumienfa kukudurum ekwayenim ti yesko chigipo mumienfa kukudurum kunkoyenim chitim na Yesu Kristo kaya mui onyauye Akwansrofo no akwabo Obi adena maneriba Do wanu see wa manu soso Waya brani akasi Edi ya tutu wa humpa Eti semme benkiti Itumi wona muma yensaye Itumi wona muma yensaye Joshua Caleb Onsu abadi wa maneriba Wasiye wumma mainu soso Muma yenkai Jordan Eura diende dini mechayo Mumienkai pukokone chinsu Eura diende di kwa itumu Mumienkai Jericho basuwe Eura diende di na kuwati Okunu ye eura diku Eye eura diku Ye owa kunewi wai wati Yenyami nebo nyami Missy a console for no aquaba, be at the Madeira. Do want to see one man no so soon. Why I brani I can see, I dear who to a humpa. Let us send my bank into me one among my answer, into me one among my answer. Joshua Caleb, once so about you a Madeira. Was he a woman no so soon? My Yankai Jordan, Eura Diana didn't make trial. Mumienkai pukokone chisu Eura diane di kwa itumu Mumienkai Jericho basuwe Eura diane di na kuwati Okunu ye eura diku Eye eura diku Ye owaku kunewi wai Korofu wano Yenyami nebo nyami Enti minu yanum Mumienfa kukudurum Yankwayenim wachidiemu Mumienfa kukudurum kunkoyenim Chitim na Yesu Kristo kaya mumi onyauye Yadasu tia sasia ya dumisuwe Amania rempa yintiri suda Yawunu kasaini nenchensi Nechere ya dumia sasia Hanye fio Finish hard kwa mfini Yedi osuru mbarari yechume Yabekusuwa ya wawonya manfrafo Hanye fio Yedi ya mai yebu wasuru Oman kunkura trinity mu Euradi ya siyesi yedi ya manemma Okuno ye uradiku Eye uradiku Ye uwa kunewi wai Korokono Yenyami nebo nyami Enti minu yanum Mumienfa kukudurum kunkoyeni Chitim Mumienfa kukudurum kunkoyeni Chitim na Yesu Kristo kaya mumi onyauye Wana pesa wadinya misumpa betena sero Mumienfa kukudurum kunkoyeni Befa watai wo hauni ya madihuru Mumienfa kukudurum kunkoyeni Nensu wakani wa shani mapa Yesu Kristo shayo kaya onyauye Wasi mikamu Diko si yasi ewiye Mumienfa kukudurum kunkoyeni On the Kofuana was shedding my bone. On the Kofuana was shedding my bone. Now I can obey you. Yes, now I can. Obimpusumi, I mean, any free me name. Obimpusumi, I make a midday, chere, not I soon for chere, Massia. I am a
All right. Hello, good evening, everybody. This is Kelvin up here, and today we're here for part two of our financial education and wealth building. For today's topic, we do have real estate topic, and our speaker will be Mr. Richard Owusu Ansah. But before we get things started, if I could please have someone pray for us before we get started.
Nyamitumfo yɛda wo ase ɛna anwummere nso deɛ wɔyɛ ama yɛn na wotwe esi mu education fo hɔ aboa abɛduru saa mmerɛ mayɛ yɛbɛfa so a yɛbɛbɛ ɔde wɔ ɛna yɛgu so ɛna wode yɛ fam nanso woyie nua wobɛdi yɛ ni ɛsoro sɛ bɛbɔ ne kyi da ma ne nyansa ne nimdeɛ yɛwɔ sɛ wasafo ma yɛtie biara ma yɛnya yɛsrɛ wei ne wie a de aseda ne yɛyi ama ɔsoa ne srɛ wadom nti amen.
All right, amen. And yeah, for as I already said, speaker here is Mr. Richard Owusu, who's a realtor, and he'll be giving us our information today concerning real estate. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me share my screen here quickly. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Kelvin, can you give me an idea what the audience is like?
We currently have 20 participants.
Are they young adults?
Yes, young adults and most of our parents as well.
Okay. All right.
And families too.
Okay.
It's like we are five, yeah. But we are like one.
All right. I'm asking for language purpose, I'll try to mix it up. And just to be sure, I'm using double screen. Do you see the larger picture?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you. So once again, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to talk about real estate. I have a lot of stuff to present. I'll try to run through it as quickly as possible. I would recommend, if you have a question along the way, I would recommend you maybe jot it down. And my goal is to go through it as quickly as possible and have more time for your questions. I think that would be more beneficial if I can actually answer your questions. So I was asked to talk about real estate. And so what I plan doing is talking about the home ownership aspect. And then on the second part, talk about real estate investing, or touch on that, because I can talk about everything about real estate investing tonight. And so even on the other side, I'll be touching on important stuff. And again, your questions will be much beneficial if I can answer them. So now is the time to raise millionaires, and you can build wealth through real estate. Just to start with a few quotes from some well-known figures, mostly in this country. So this is Bill Gates. If you were born poor, it's not your mistake. But if you die poor, it's your mistake. You have all the blame. According to studies, 90% of all millionaires become so through real estate. Talk to any millionaire, they do own some sort of real estate or real estate investment. This is Theodore Roosevelt. Every man who invests in well-selected real estate in a growing section of a prosperous community adopts the surest and safest method of becoming independent. For real estate is the basis of wealth. And Franklin D. Roosevelt, real estate cannot be lost or stolen, nor can it be carried away. You say a dime and it's for a good reason. Purchased with common sense, paid in full, and managed with reasonable care, it's about the safest investment in the world. I believe you know this guy. He's changed from the time he wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, he's growing. But this is Robert Kiyosaki. He's known for his real estate investments and for the book he wrote. Real estate investing, even on a very small scale, remains a tried and true means of building an individual's cash flow and wealth. This is John Paulson. He is a billionaire. That's a good goal to have. If you don't own a home, buy one. If you own a home, buy another one. If you own two homes, buy a third. And lend your relatives the money to buy a home. That's how important that's how much importance he attributes to owning real estate. This is Oprah Winfrey. I believe she's very well known. I will forever believe that buying a home is a great investment. Why? Because you can't live in a stock certificate. You can't live in a mutual fund. She's in a sense saying, in addition to investing in real estate and having equity and tax breaks and all that, you also can live in the house, which is a good advantage. This is Lawrence Yun. Lawrence Yun is of course a Chinese. He's the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors. Owning a home continues to be a proven method for building long-term wealth. Home values generally grow over time, so homeowners begin the wealth building process as soon as they make a down payment and move to pay down their mortgage. I'll be talking more about this. So this guy, they do studies and market analysis for the National Association of Realtors. Every year they come up with predictions for how the market will go the following year. So they see the trend of home values and how properties are appreciating. And based on their research, this continues to be true and proven. Landlords grow rich in their sleep. If you own a rental property and you have a tenant in there, even while you're sleeping, you just know that at the end of the month, you're going to get a rent paid. So while you're sleeping, you're making money. It's a good place to be. Just a quick introduction for those who do not know me. My name is displayed. My name is Richard Owusu Ansah. I'm a licensed realtor. I've been in the business almost 10 years now. Licensed in the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. I have other accreditations. I've been a top agent, top producer. I have a bachelor's degree and on my way to get a master's degree in real estate development. I'm a husband of one wife, just as the Bible says, and I have 4 children. I love to cook, so that I love the kitchen. I love to bake and read and meditate. That's just a little about me. So now let's get into business. I'm going to address some myths about home ownership. There's a lot of information out there. It's a good and bad thing to have. And in this age, everyone has an opinion. Everyone has something to say. Every homeowner is an expert in real estate. So you will hear a lot of things. Some of them are true, some of them are not. And so one of the myths out there is that you need a 20% down payment in order to buy a home. It is true, but it doesn't apply in all cases. Though putting down 20% comes with a benefit of avoiding mortgage insurance premium. If you don't own a home already, you don't need to know this. Don't worry about that. But it's an additional payment on your mortgage if you're doing less than 20% down payment. That's a benefit. And you get to lower your loan amount. But to say you need 20% in order to buy a house, that is not true. There are mortgage programs that will allow you to put as less as 3.5% down. That's FHA. If you have a military background and you qualify for a VA loan, you do not require to put any money down. There's zero down payment. And even if you're not a VA, there are other loan programs that will give you a second mortgage to cover your down payment and maybe some of your closing costs. So that's not entirely true. Myth number 2, your credit must be perfect in order to qualify for a loan. That's not true. You do not need 800 credit score in order to get a loan. Although having 800 credit score is great, 500, you can get a loan, but it does come with some conditions which may be too strong for most people as far as how much money you need to put down. Myth number 3, it's cheaper to rent than buy. This is true in some cases, depending on your income, depending on your location. If you're in New York, home prices are really high, rent is equally high. So in some places, in some cases, it might be beneficial to you or cheaper to rent than to buy, but that is on a small scale. On a broader scale, it's always beneficial to own your home than to rent because owning a home comes with other benefits, which I'll be talking about later. Myth number 4, you can't buy a home with debt. And this is something I hear a lot about from parents who have co-signed on student loans and also from young adults who just graduated, they're working, they wish to buy a home, but my student loans. It is not true that you need to pay off your student loans before you can consider taking a loan to purchase a home. Because while you still have your student loans, you don't need to pay your student loans all at once. You have a monthly payment, just as you will have maybe a monthly payment on your auto loan. So in applying for a loan, all these things will be accounted for. We look at your debt to income ratio, which will include not maybe the 200,000 you owe on your student loans, but the monthly payment is what is accounted for. And some of you may have your loan in forbearance or deferred. If it's deferred, it's not even counted, or maybe 1% of it will be counted. So if you have a student loan, you can buy a house. We see it done all the time. You must be a citizen to qualify for a loan. That's not true either. So when you're applying for a loan, you will be asked to state your residential status as to whether you're a citizen, a green card holder, or if you have a work permit, tax ID. All these statuses will makes you eligible for a loan. If you have a tax ID, you can still buy a house in this country. If you have a work permit, you can buy a house. It does come with some conditions as far as when your work permit expires. We need to know that and have a good amount of time ahead of you. But people get homes with work permit. Myth number 6, You need to live in your house for 30 years, pay it off before you can sell it or move. That's not true either. I've had people ask me this, oh, but I haven't paid everything. And by the way, just I'm used to doing this in English, but I'm used to this. If I say something and you need me to elaborate, please feel free to let me know. So yes, people ask me if I buy a house and they're making projections on when they will pay it off. The truth is, most people do not live in their homes for 30 years. And if you live in your house, I've seen people buy a house, sell it in 9 months, in 6 months, because something came up. They need to move out to another state for a job offer. So there are no restrictions on when you can sell your house. And if you do have some equity in there, you can sell anytime and cash in, move out or move up to somewhere else. Myth number 7, which will be the last on this list. You should get married before you even start thinking of buying a house. That's not true. I've seen people, I've seen couples where they're getting married and each person or each would-be spouse already owns a house. They both sell their maybe townhouse and condo, put their proceeds together, and now they can buy a bigger home. That's a really good start than starting with a debt or starting a family with debt. So if you're single, it's good to live with your parents, but if you're thinking of moving out, you should consider owning a place because it does come with benefits. And talking of benefits, I'm going to touch on some of the benefits of home ownership. And then when I'm done with this, well, let's just continue. So let me start from happiness. Living in your own home gives you a sense of joy, a sense of happiness, because that's your space. You can make it whatever you want. When you're renting, there are some restrictions. Not every rental allows pets, and there are some second generation Ghanaians who really love their dogs and cats. And so in that case, guess what? You either you live somewhere else or you live there without your pet. And if you live in an apartment which is rented or a house that is rented, you can change the paint. Well, you can, but you have to restore it back to how you found it. There are lots of improvements you wish you could do if this were to be your own space. But if you're renting, you're very restricted on what you can do. When you own your own house, you can paint it whatever color you want. You can decorate, you can punch holes, you can keep as many pets as you want. And knowing coming home to a space that belongs to you gives you a different feeling. One of the other benefits is tax savings. When you own a house and you have a mortgage on it, you are able to do some write-offs when you file your taxes. In addition to that, when you have an investment property, it also comes with some tax advantages. You can write off some depreciation, and instead of you paying more taxes, now you're paying less taxes. And this is one of the many reasons that homeowners, the net worth of a homeowner is 40 times that of most renters. That's a huge gap. So just owning a house puts you many steps ahead of one who is renting. Um, and two major benefits of owning a property is appreciation and equity. They go hand in hand, but they're not the same. Appreciation is the value of your property increases with time as long as the economy is doing well or the real estate market is doing well. So to put it in perspective, assuming you bought a home, you bought a home 10 years ago for 300,000. The value of the property today, 10 years later, will not still be 300,000, assuming it's in great condition and great location. The value will increase over time. So the house you bought for 300,000 10 years ago will today value around maybe 500 or 600. And that's not an exaggeration. That's one of the huge benefits of owning a house because the value will keep going up. This results or leads to you building equity in that property. The equity is, I'll be giving more details of that, but that's the potential value you have built into the house for yourself. Meaning when you sell, with the example I gave, you bought it for 300, it's worth 600 today. It means and you've paid down your loan. It's been 10 years. You've been paying mortgage every month. So now the 300 you bought it for, the loan is no more at 300. It's gone down. It's now maybe at 200,000. So if you sell that house today for 600, you're paying off the 200 and the remaining 400 minus taxes, minus fees, whatever is left, you're able to keep. That's the beauty of owning real estate. Another reason, another benefit of home ownership is you build roots. In other words, you're able to build some stability for yourself, for your family. And for families that have school-going kids, this is crucial because I don't think there's any fun in changing schools every 2 or 3 years and being the new kid in school almost all the time. That's not fun. Plus, the downside to this, maybe you're renting a house and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna stay here till my kids graduate from high school. But guess what? The landlord can wake up any day and decide to sell that property. Or they can have a relative who needs a place and they can just kick you out. And now you have to move somewhere else and you may have to change a lot of things, including the schools your kids are attending. So owning gives you that stability. You're able to build roots. You and your family are able to maintain some good relationships for a long term. Education wise, so according to research has proven that children of homeowners tend to earn higher test scores and graduate at a higher percentage than those of renters. This is based on research and studies. I know for most African homes, whether you're renting or not, you still have to study and you still have to get your grades. But there is a strong argument over here. Psychologically, I believe every kid will be more proud saying, this is our house compared to we live in that apartment complex. It does make a difference. So I'm going to touch on some common mistakes that people make when they're buying homes. Number one is overlooking additional costs. So most people will ask, oh, if I buy this house, if I buy a home at say for 500,000, what's my mortgage gonna be? And I'm gonna tell you your mortgage will be around $4,000 a month, but there are other expenses that you will need to consider. If you live in a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartment and your electric bill is say $70 a month, you're gonna move into a townhouse that's maybe 2,000 square feet or a single family that's 4,000 square feet. Guess what? Your utility bill over here comparatively will be higher. So you need to factor those things into your expenses, into your budget, and anticipate for a higher utility bill. There are other expenses. You need to maintain your home. And so there are HOA dues. Well, HOA will be part of your estimate on your mortgage, but there are other expenses that you will need to keep in mind. Another mistake a lot of people make is neglecting the importance of a good location. So you need to think ahead. If maybe you are a couple You don't have kids yet. You need to plan ahead. And part of the planning could include you moving somewhere else into maybe a better school district. In that case, that's good. You can live anywhere. But if you think you want to plan for a good school district, or the nature of your job, you're in IT, you want to be closer to Tyson's Corner, or you want to be closer to Arlington, then you need to put all those things into consideration. Or maybe you're in the military, you want to be closer to a base. So all those things need to be factored into your plans. Failing to consider future needs. So that I believe I have covered. So it could be school, it could be workplace, it could be other needs, even church, and maybe being close to family. Shopping around for a mortgage is extremely important. When you're getting a loan, it's good to shop around or work with a mortgage broker who has access to multiple outlets and can shop around on your behalf. And the benefit of that is getting the best rate available. Another mistake is underestimating the importance of a good real estate agent. I see this a lot. I'll tie it into the last one. So let me use this analogy. Assuming you went through a heart surgery and all of a sudden it makes you an expert in heart surgery, maybe than the cardiologist. It doesn't work that way. You will know you have an experience going through a heart surgery, but it doesn't make you an expert. And what we see in our industry is every homeowner is an expert in real estate. Going through a home purchase exposes you to a lot of things in real estate, but when you're getting advice as someone who is trying to purchase a home, it's better to talk to a professional because things do change. If you bought a home in 2020, the market is completely different from what it used to be. Interest rates have gone up, prices have shot up. And so if when people use their scenarios to give you advice, it may not apply in current times. Credit is usually an issue. Of course, it's one of the first things to be looked at when you're applying for a loan. So I just thought I should touch on some helpful tips. Sorry. Number one, you should always at least check your credit once a year. That way, if there's identity theft or if there's something on your credit you're not even aware of, it could be a collection, something you forgot about, you can catch it early enough and deal with it. It's good to make payments. Number one, it's always good to make payments on time. It could be a bill of maybe $20 a month. You forget to pay it, it's going to harm your credit. So best thing to do is set up automatic payments. Just make sure there's money in your account. Reduce credit balances. So to put it in numbers, if you have a credit limit of $1,000, try not to spend more than $300. So always keep it at 70%. And that way it will strengthen your credit worthiness. Old credit accounts. So you have a bank account, say a checking account or even a credit card. It's better to just keep it open. So don't cancel it. You don't have to use it, but the longer the history of your credit, the better your credit score. So just keep the old ones. That will help build your credit and strengthen your credit. Limit credit applications. All those store credits that save you $8 and $10, they will come back and bite you. Because the more you're using it, and if you're not paying them, and if you have some balances on them, those little ones, they're not looking at the amount you owe, they're looking at the percentage of it. So in your mind, you have a $500 credit card from Macy's and you've spent $400. Guess what? That's like 80% of it. That's going to harm you. Yeah. Diversify your credit types. So having multiple different kind of loans will enhance your credit. So you have an auto loan, you have a mortgage, you have some personal loans. Just pay them regularly on time, and that will strengthen your credit. But do not go looking for personal loans just so you can build your credit. That's going to harm you. This will go for parents. If you have a teenager, maybe in high school or going to college, one of the good things you can do for them to build their credit even before they graduate is to add them as authorized users on your credit card account. So even if you don't give them a card to use and you use your credit card, excuse me to say, use it wisely and maintain a good practice on how you use it, is going to help them build their credit as well. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind. If you have any outstanding debts, and this comes up a lot when people apply for loans, all of a sudden they realize they owe T-Mobile a $60 bill, which is now in collections, or they're disputing it. Yes, it's only $50. If you pay it off, it will do you a lot of good. If you want to fight T-Mobile for $50, they are a huge corporation. They don't really care, but the harm and the odds are completely against you. Um, Always monitor your credit. I think I mentioned that already. So now let's talk about real estate investing. Let me see time. Oh, okay. So the three key aspects of real estate investing, the three benefits and how it helps you to build wealth. Number one is appreciation and equity. Number two, there's cash flow. And then you have tax benefits. So appreciation, you need time. You can buy a house this year unless you bought in COVID 2020 and then 2021, your value has jumped up like 20%. That happened. But in any normal time, your appreciation happens over time. Equity, as I was explaining, is your home value minus your loan amount. So assuming the value of your home is 100,000 and your loan amount is 40,000, the equity you've built into your home is 60,000. So when you sell, you subtract this 40 from that 100 you sold for, and this gets to stay in your pocket. Of course, minus fees and taxes. So you build equity by paying down your mortgage. Every month, as you pay your mortgage, your loan amount is going down, but your property value keeps increasing, and that's how you build equity into your property. So cash flow, this everything I'm talking about here mostly apply to you when you own a rental property. You don't live there, or maybe you live there, which I'm going to talk about. So your cash flow is the total amount of rent you're receiving minus operating expenses. So your debt service, which would be the loan, the mortgage you're paying, um, all the maintenance you need to do, taxes, after deducting all of those things, paying your mortgage off, whatever is left, that's your margin or your profit. There's a difference. But um, strategies people use to own rental properties. Let me touch on those. Number one is house hacking. So house hacking, house hopping, they're similar, just a slight difference. So house hacking, this is where, say you're a new graduate, you're like 22, 21, and you just graduated. Excuse me. Ring a bell. Come and get us in. Go the other way. Shut the door. Thank you. 1,000 apologies. I'm working from home. Okay, so back to house hacking. A fresh graduate, you're working, you want to own a property. So what most people do is they purchase a home, they move in with their friends. So assuming you buy a townhouse like this, there are 3 bedrooms in there, you only need 1. So they rent out the 2 other bedrooms to other people. And in most cases, the rent coming from those other 2 friends is usually enough to cover the mortgage. And so now they live in there rent free. So the benefit is, yes, you can live there rent free. There's a low minimum down payment. When you buy a primary residence, you get to put down the minimum down payment. And so you don't need 20% for that. If you're buying a house you're not going to live in, then you need 20%. I think someone needs to mute themselves. There's some noise in the background.
Go ahead, already muting.
Okay, thank you. In addition to that, by doing house hacking, you're also gaining some landlord experience. House hopping is mostly for maybe similar to house hacking. So assuming you bought this house, you put down 3% or 3.5%. You live there for 1 year. Now the following year, you can move out of that house into another home and still put down the minimum down payment. So as long as you have no concerns about moving, which is painful, you can literally move and buy a home every single year, putting down 3%, 3.5%, or 5%. To put that in perspective, 3% of 300,000 is 9,000. If you have to put down 20%, 20% of 300,000 is 60,000. So that's how much benefit you're gaining by house hopping. Another strategy is house flipping. This is for well-seasoned investors. This is where you purchase a worn-out house or a beat-down home, a foreclosure property, you fix it up, you put it back on the market, you sell it, you make a profit. So as an example, when you're going by this strategy, most of the time investors have used this formula where the ARV stands for after repair value. Let me use this as an example. So your purchase price, the price you buy the home for, should be 60% of the after repair value, assuming the house is going for 180,000. And the after repair value, which is the price you can sell it for after the house is fixed up, is 250,000. You buy it at 60%, which is 150. Now, if rehab and selling costs comes up to 70,000, your total cost is now 220. And so your net margin, because we haven't factored taxes in yet, so it's not profit, it's the margin. So your margin, your potential gain is about 30,000. And that's just one deal. And this is just for a house you're gonna sell for 250,000. So the higher, the better. There's a better method, which is also high scale. In this case, you buy the house. As you can see, it's worn out. You fix it, you rent it out, and then you refinance. By refinancing, you're pulling out the equity. Now you can take out some money from that house you bought with a loan. You repeat. By the time you do this 10, 20 times, you'll probably be a millionaire. Another strategy is through commercial real estate, which include apartment complex, shopping centers, car wash, assisted living facilities, group homes, rehab facilities, office buildings. This is on a larger scale, but no dream is too big. You can also build. If you can find any property to purchase, you can build any kind of property you want. And you just need to secure the right loan or buy it with your cash, and it could be fetching you good money. General remarks. So if you're gonna go investing, have a plan. Have a 10 to 20-year plan. Time runs really quick. It's amazing how people grow. Um, we have no control over time. Time will surely pass. So why not take advantage of it? Um, there are a million reasons not to invest in real estate. There are 1,000 reasons not to own a house, but the benefits and the advantages far outweigh those reasons. And so I would say focus on the good side of the coin and just execute your plans. Practice delayed gratification. You may want to sacrifice the flashy vehicle and the flashy shoes and the vacations and just build some wealth for yourself and be on your plan. If you're buying a rental property, it doesn't have to be your dream house. It doesn't have to be the best flashy property because you do not plan living there yourself. And renters really they're not that picky. And stay focused. There's a lot of distraction, but if you have a good plan, stay on it. These are some resources, some books you can read about wealth building and real estate. At this time, I'm gonna allow questions and hopefully I can address them for you. Thank you. If you're muted, you can unmute yourself.
I think we have a hand raised for Asante. I don't know if it was an accident.
Mr. Rich,
Yeah.
thank you very much for agreeing to hang out with us today. We are very appreciative of it. Now, my question, I think that during a presentation, you can sell the house anytime you want and then move on and take whatever money you make out of it, right? But my question is that, is there a potential to lose money if there's no
Of course.
equity in it? Say, this year now you want to sell up. Is there potential of you actually losing money, not even breaking even? Is there potential to lose money?
There is, yes. So depending on what kind of loan you have, if assuming you only put down 1% or you put down no money, is 0%, already you don't have any equity built in there. And also the major factor is how the market is doing. Your property value can go upside down and we say you are underwater, meaning you owe more than your house is worth. That happens. And in that case, your real estate agent will obviously do a net sheet and tell you how much your home is worth, how much you owe on your mortgage. And this is, if you sell, this is either how much you get or how much you have to bring to the table. So you will know off the bat whether you'll be making money or whether you'll be running into a loss. And so to answer your question, yes, you don't always make money when you sell, especially in a downturn market. Um, Evangelist Nanako, I see your hand.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much for this program and the education you're giving. My question is what shows you know say you don't need to have a 20% down payment and also be about credit. You debunked the myths. So what are the truth we need to know when it comes to those myths?
The truth is, the ideal situation is to have a credit score of, say, 760, 740, at least 725. You're in a good place. You can still get a conventional loan for 680 credit score, a good conventional loan. You can still get a conventional loan for 640. But guess what? There's FHA, which is a government-backed loan. You can go as low as 580. 580 credit score will still get you an FHA loan. And that's the whole purpose of FHA. Just so first-time home buyers who haven't got the opportunity to build their credit, they can also qualify. In addition to that, FHA allows a higher debt-to-income ratio. Don't worry your head over that. It means you have a lot of debt, but it will still allow you to get enough or good amount of loan so you can purchase the home you want. So you can get a good loan for as low as 580. Your credit score, there are 3 bureaus. Your middle score is 580. You can get a loan. You can still get a loan at a credit score of 500. The only downside or the catch to that is you will have to put down 10% as your down payment. And not many people have 10%. That's a lot of money. If it's a 400,000 home, 10% is 40,000. But if you have it and your credit score is that low at 500, you can still get a house or get a loan to buy that house. And that is the truth. Mind you, not every bank can do that. Not every loan company can do that. And that's why you need an agent to point you in the right direction. So when you get a no from here and get a no from there, maybe you're knocking on the wrong door. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. You did. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. If I don't see your hand and you have a question, please just go ahead, unmute yourself, and you can speak.
Oh, I have one more question if there is no hands up now.
Go ahead.
I don't think you mentioned this myth, but I've heard it said several times that uh, the probability of you losing your house in this country is very high. What is the truth in that, and how should we take this?
Thanks for bringing that up. There's some truth in it, and there's cause and effect. So the way things work, when you go to closing, meaning on the day you sign your documents to buy the house, there's a promissory note. You're promising the bank that you pay back the loan, and that will be recorded at the county court. And if that promise is not fulfilled, if you don't keep that promise, the bank has the right to repossess the house. And that's what we call the foreclosure. The same thing applies to when you own a car or when you buy a car. If you're not making your payment, they'll look for you wherever you are and repossess the vehicle. What happens in real estate is someone loses a job, or there is a divorce, or someone dies in the family. Things happen. And when those things happen, if you lose your job, you shouldn't lose your house. And it's one of those things people tend to keep to themselves till it's too late. If you lose your job, talk to a professional who can help you with the right conversation with the loan company. You can always do a forbearance till you get back on your feet. If someone died in your family, let's say someone loses their spouse, now the income is only one. In that case, it brings in some financial difficulties. You can always arrange with the loan company to put a hold and resume your payment after some time. But yes, it's easy to lose your property, especially if you're not making payment. But the odds of you getting kicked out of an apartment is higher than you getting kicked out of your own house. In an apartment, you don't have any mediator. When you own a house and you have a mortgage, you can always negotiate your way and still stay in there. You can do a forbearance for 6 months or even a year, depending on the situation. Thanks for asking that question. I see a hand up. It only has the
First Nova.
Yes.
Rich, I have two questions.
Okay.
The first question is, like we're dealing with world building. Here is the case. Most people, especially here in free other countries, ban or person build a world. But nipa na so bad na adwenya say we dey 5 years obebo ne gidigidi no ko. Nti any one to dan kura na wasting the time. But alongside the person end up spending maybe 10 years or more here. Nti more that mentality so be gidigidi no mako. It's no matching. What kind of advice na with me there mama? Na say kwan be no be for so a. Scan on be plan na say what be person building no. Umbetimi afa ho aye. The second question answer here about the foreclosure houses and auction houses, those kind of houses, Meridi say Bibronuma with me a good deal compared to go for win. How true is that? And then how do we go about that? If you want an auction house or foreclosure or the one from the sheriffs, how do we go about that?
Okay. Thanks for your questions. So to answer your first question, if your plan is to just live in the country for 5 or 10 years and move back to Ghana, you just want to make some quick money here and go back and settle in Ghana, it's a good plan. Maybe Ghana works better for you. Or if you're not a Ghanaian on the platform, maybe your home country works better. But within those 5 years, if you decided to buy a home and live in there, you can still build enough equity. And when it's time for you to move back, you can sell that house and pull your equity. Now, when you're renting, the house you're renting will still appreciate in value, but you have no share in that equity. Meanwhile, you're the one paying the loan. You're the one helping the landlord get richer. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you should just do it for yourself. So everyone pays a mortgage. The question is, whose mortgage are you paying? Yeah. And to Ashanti's question, let's say it's 10 years, you want to move back, but the market is down. And so if you sell, you'll be selling for far less. You don't have to sell it. You can rent it. And if you're not in the country, you can have a management company manage it for you, or a management agent manage the property for you. So even while you're away, that property will be making money for you. It's just to your benefit if you buy a home and you build that equity for yourself. A lot of people have retired and moved back to Ghana, and when they're moving, they sell their house and they're carrying hundreds of thousands of dollars back home. That's money they wouldn't get had they been renting for all those period of time. Foreclosure and auctions. So unlucky for us in this area, we are in the DMV area where a lot of people have money. People have money to buy properties in cash. And so with foreclosure properties, there are so many investors in this area who will go in with a cash offer. And so if you have a loan or you're financing the purchase, it puts you at a disadvantage. That's just something to know. But foreclosure properties foreclosure properties are advertised on the market just as any property. So when you're working with an agent and your focus is to buy a foreclosure property, yes, you can do that. Again, the downside in this area is a lot of foreclosure properties, by the time, if you're buying it to live in there, it may not be the best plan, because by the time you fix it up, you are up to the market value. Investors who are more savvy, they know when and when not to go in or at what price to acquire a foreclosure property, and they do it over and over. Um, they have no emotional attachments because they do not plan to live in there. So that's a disadvantage for an owner resident who want to buy the house and live in there. The same apply to auctions. Most auctions prefer cash. And so auctions are held either online or at the county court at the doorsteps or at the auctioned property. There are many websites that do auctions. You can do it from there, but again, you need to have money. The deposit alone is a cashier's check, usually about 25,000 cashier's check. And there are some premiums associated with it. After you've purchased the auction property, maybe a 3% or 5% premium you have to pay on top of the price of the property.
So I have a question for our younger generation. So I know a lot of people will ask, how do I start? Where is the starting point? How much money do I have to save? I know you discussed the percentages and gave a few examples, but a lot of people might be clueless as to where the starting point. So what's an advice that you'll give to the younger generation who are interested in this process?
Okay, good point. Thank you. Um, First of all, if you're getting into this, make sure your credit is in a good place. And as far as saving money, assuming you're buying a 400,000 home and you have a prime credit score 700 plus, it means you can get a loan with a 3% down payment. 3% of 400,000 is 12,000. That's your down payment. In addition to that, you're gonna need closing costs. Your closing costs will include taxes, insurance, and fees. And that will usually, in Maryland, you can estimate about 20,000. In Virginia, about 18,000 or 17. DC is about the same. So in all, you're looking at, for a 400,000 home, you're looking around an estimate of about 32 to 35,000 to purchase the home. Now, this is a high estimate. If assuming the home you're buying, you get a credit from the seller or a lender credit, that will reduce that out-of-pocket money. But anything between 30, 35, if the price is higher, you're looking around 40,000. That's not too high, right?
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
think we have one hand raised as well.
Is that right? What
Yes,
is the
sir.
best time? What is the best time to buy and or not to buy? So
Okay,
when is
so
the best time to go in and out?
that was another myth, which I'm like, yeah, but there's a myth that spring is the best time to buy because a lot of properties come on the market around spring. It is true, but it's also true that a lot of home buyers come on the market in the spring, which means you have high competition. On a broader scale, to answer that question, people ask, is this a good time to buy? The answer to that question on any day is yes. It's always a good time to buy. It depends on which lens you're looking through. It's always a good time to buy. It's not always a good time to sell. Because when you're getting in and you're banking on your property appreciating. We've been hearing that there's a bubble that's going to burst and the market is going to crash. I've been hearing this since 2017. And here we are, the market, especially in this area, is not crashing. What happened in 2008 will never happen again because that was due to poor regulation of the mortgage industry. Now there are rules in place. If you don't qualify for the loan, you will not get the loan. Back to the point. It's always a good time to buy. But when you're selling, you want to sell on the high. Because if you bought the home for 500 and it's now worth 450 because your local market is going down, that's not a good time to sell. Maybe you should hold on to the property and wait for the market to pick up again.
Please, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I keep hearing credit, credit, credit. So it looks as if it's a mortgage. Are they we know basically original credits or credits, and we are trying to help our young ones. And I think I heard you saying something about helping your teenage child non-build the credits. So my question is, are you just going to put that child's name up to a credit card no so nidin keke and it was so and I say it was or indication we are not so or no use card no you guys are sharing or buying things using the same card. And at the end of the day, if you mess up on that credit card too, it's going to affect that child's answer. I want you to clarify the whole kakra, mommy. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Ansah, Mr. Ansah, sorry, I was about to ask the same question, and I want to add on one more question to this question because that was the question I want to ask. So my question was, the first question is what the our sister asked, and then the second was, I heard that like if you maybe open an account for your child at early age, it affects the child when they get to college by applying for school loan because they're gonna look at only their account or their credit history. So, you saying we should open account for the kids? No, I want to make sure if it's right because that I've been hearing as a parent. As we always want to do some investigation when it comes to credit and I heard people saying that if you open an account for your kids at early age, now it affect them when they are applying for student loans. If it's true.
So thanks for that question. I will answer that second. So to answer the first question, adding your child to your credit account, it's a good thing. All you need to do is add them as a beneficiary on your credit account. You can go the extra step of getting them a card that they can also use, and you just have to monitor the use and the payment. And I'm sure before you do that, you must trust your child, knowing that they'll be responsible about their spending. But if you're not, you can still get the card. You don't even have to give it to them. They don't need to use the credit in order to gain the benefit. And to your point, if you mismanage that credit account, it's going to affect them. The main goal is for them to benefit. And so if you don't keep it well, they will come back and harm them instead. So it's under the assumption that you have a good credit. If your credit is 580, don't put your child on it. You're not doing them any good. But if you have a strong credit, you're in the 750 or 800, definitely put them on it because that's going to enhance theirs. Unfortunately, I cannot speak to student loans. It's not something I have done. Yes. So thank you, Asante. You can add them as authorized users, and as early as 13-year-old, you can add them on your credit account. That doesn't harm them unless if you mess up your credit, it's going to affect them. But as far as student loans and when you create an account, there are different kinds of accounts. So it could even be a trust. It could be um, a college fund that maybe you set up for them. And so when they're taking student loans, of course, that's going to show because it has the social on there. So I'm not sure if that's what you heard. And again, I have not taken student loans and I don't have any kid at that age yet. So I cannot speak to that, but I can look into that and get you more information from the right source because when you do the hearsay, you hear a lot of things and it doesn't come with a lot of clarity. So I'm writing that down and I will get you that information. But if someone here has an experience about that, you can speak to it. Otherwise, next question.
Oh, thank you. So thank you so much for the answer. So please find out for me because I have an account for my kids and it's called custodian account. It's like
Yeah,
my name is on it, but it's on the under the
it's
kids'
for
name.
them. Yes.
Yeah. So when they get to a certain age, that's when I go and open they'll go and get a card in their
Hmm.
name. But right now it's still under my name, and sometimes I put some money in there for them. But it's called custodian. So it's the same as you are talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
All
not
right.
just any account.
Okay.
It's an account they'll benefit from after a certain age or maybe contribute to their college. Yeah. So it's not just like a checking account. Um, the
So
person.
just
Mr.
to
Right.
add
The
on
last question.
to that, sorry, Auntie Susan. So just from experience, as you know, Uncle Richard discussed, I have dealt with that. So I had added my sister to my credit. Well, before I had added her to my bank. Um, she wasn't 18 yet, so she couldn't get her own bank. When she did turn 18, then she was able to get her own, separate account. Same as well as the credit card. The benefit of it, as he discussed, was the credit history. So, if she starts building credit through me now, when she's 18, and let's say she decides to buy a house 10 years later, now she has 10 years worth of credit building. So that
Yeah.
will be beneficial to her, as long as he stated you have good credit. That's the only
Right.
time you're doing good to them. If you
Mhm.
do not have good credit, then you're just harming them. So, and with the student loans, as he discussed, I'm not sure. I've never taken student loans. I'm not sure, but I have added my sister. I never gave her the actual card. I just added her in order to build her credit. She doesn't need a credit card at this age, but just for the benefit of building her credit, I added her to mine. But she is going to college, and so far we haven't experienced any difficulties with student loans. So that's the experience we're going through currently. But if anything else comes up, I'll make sure to let you know as well.
Okay. Thank you for that.
So
Asante.
adding them to your credit, like we all been saying, if you have a good credit, will eliminate the fact that you have to co-sign in case they need a student loan. Because usually in credit school, only credit history be into here student loan who parents have to co-sign for them. But if you add them at an early age, like some of the banks, as early as 11, 12, 13 years, not all that much credit history through you are in case we hear to do now, hopefully we hear, but we hear they can just go in there with a little guidance from you to get a better student loan. Yeah, we hear also be cool sign for them. That is why that is actually better to start early. I think that Dr. George at the point also.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yo, thank you so much for this experience. Um, I just may perceive me to speak to the question about uh creating a custodian account, and I'm assuming that this is a 529 custodian account, which is
That's
an
right.
account you create to pretty much invest in the kids' education until you have to spend on the education. And now, no crowd, I'm running my clients so to me spending on so many different things on the education. But I've also learned from many sources that as you build this kind of investment structure towards the kids' education, no, the risks that bedroom so college, no. I think so. We should clarify the two sources of say financial aid that you're looking at. Student loans is one thing. 529 will affect mostly, any way be a year based on needs, right? Financial need. And T grants, the state grants and could be the ma one come no. That kid, because be a funds na engineer to a point, may not qualify for it,
Yeah.
right? It be a any other scholarship and be a need based, you consider the parental and even the individual assets, right, to assess the person's financial need. No, there's chance because if you are not any group pointer, if I can say they should be able to cover their cost of education. They will not qualify for some of these, say financial aids and can be our. But I think so. We should also talk, in the sense that we're thinking about wealth creation, right? So even the idea said, person we BBA is so important as investing in education, only to allow them to access student loans, which is debt in future. No, it's very counterproductive.
It is.
Right. And
Yeah.
if you're a parent now, master who means in say, ebe put his car away. That money begins to benefit from compound interest to the point that around by age 18. Na enyina do be a own yes, you want qualify for be a student loans. I think it's actually a good thing to actually cultivate. Right.
Yeah.
Even the idea student loans there, Sekoban says student loans nothing now here. I think you will find a lot of banks and entities that would look at that, say the facts or assets to provide that student loan. But I think the biggest challenge is to say grants and those need-based financial aid tools. No, and because to be or enough so won't qualify for those. I wanted to just chime in on that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Rich, one more question. How does probate work on properties? For instance, Ubi lose a loved one, now property, say house, and I say, does it affect probate, a co-probate affect house, and say, on to move money family, ne man, I say, ne man, I say, Obani to move ma. How does it work with the probate on houses?
Okay. Yeah, so if Obiwu Nase Niyeritiasia, automatically the wife becomes the sole owner of the property. So when you buy, so tenancy in entirety is for couples. It means you both own it wholly. And say bibitomia, you don't need any documentation for the property to transfer to my spouse. It will automatically go to them. If maybe you bought before you got married and you bought jointly, joint tenancy, then you have to declare your percentage. And as a bakuni the portion no can go towards a predetermined beneficiary. So if as married couples, that's usually not a problem. But if it's not a married couple, and I say it's the last surviving person or the surviving spouse, then it will have to go through probate. You have to set an executor or personal representative who will then take care of the estate, which is everything you left behind, including the house. And that person, by becoming the personal representative, you have the authority. Basically, the court authorizes you to take care of that estate. And now you have the power to sell and maybe disperse the proceeds to all the heirs. So that's how it works.
Say follow up. On say in Africa for an answer, be so smart say. Yeah, I say, oh, they be main family na mikunu ento so. It be an officer to na who for an officer. Is it advisable see a BS and I say I was see a timid deed of trust and I say the deed, name or maybe Unilo Neso.
Yes, it is clear. So ideally, you both do not need to be on the loan. But say if my income is enough to qualify for the house, myself and my wife, we want to buy it. There's no need for both of us, excuse me, there's no need for both of us to be on the loan. The loan can just be in my name based on my credit and income. My wife can be on the deed. And no, necessarily. Even if my wife's name is not on the deed, the house in the state of Maryland, Commonwealth of Virginia, is considered a community property, which means it was acquired after the marriage. And whether divorce or death, they are still part of that property. They have ownership rights to the property. But ideally, have their name on there and not Ansah. Well, I know why. So the reason people try not to do that is, oh, Ebiana, what Juma say, and you are unable to pay the mortgage, and you call foreclosure, then it only affects one person. So that way the other person is free to purchase. Let's hope for the best. Let's not plan for bad things to happen.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Richard. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you for all the information, and thank everyone else for all the questions. I'm sure other people might have more questions, but time is running out. We'll try to do this another time. For tomorrow, we do have health talks with our speaker, George Ajapong. So be sure to tune in tomorrow as well, same time. And before we go, I will kindly ask if somebody can please give us our closing prayer.
Before we go, I mean, we all heard Dr. George Japon speak. Um, worth of knowledge. Indeed, I hope that actually you won't miss it. There's a lot of information on everything that you want to know about health, and a little bit of education and all that good stuff. Just a little bit about him. He's a Harvard graduate, a Yale graduate, like a lot of stuff. And to please don't miss it tomorrow. 8 o'clock, we'll be here again. Let's run Collins, if I trouble am I na yes, Pacho so no so na evangelist na na pacho shasoma na yampo.
Yɛmmɔ mpae Wusafo. Yɛda wo ase Nyame tumfoɔ. Wabɔ ɔma ho ban. Na wotwe mu nyinaa wama ho kwan ma yɛsua adeɛ. Yɛsua abrabɔ mu nsɛm, yɛsua asɛm yɛbɛnya nka wɔ abrabɔ yi mu na yɛka sɛ aseda nka wo din. Nnɛ nnwumere so wonam w'akɔ a Richard so akyerɛkyerɛ yɛn ɛkwan a wo mma bɛtumi own your own houses, ɛkwan a wo mma bɛtumi abuild wealth, both for themselves and for their generation. Na yɛka sɛ aseda nka wo din. Mmerɛ enyimmerɛ duru a yɛba bɛbɛ deɛ ɛsɛ ɔno sɛ ɔbɛso yɛ adadae pa. Wɔn a wɔnam kwan mu so kɔ adwuma nyinaa yɛ ɔmo kwanhwɛfoɔ fo ɔmo kɔ na fam kɔ adwuma asomdwoe mu. Wɔn a wɔwɔ adwuma mu so da so nyinaa no ma ɔmo nyɛ ɔmo adwuma asomdwoe mu na mmerɛ sɛ ɔmo kɔ fie so a they can in peace. But wɔkɔ a Richard ɔban nea wahwere wɔ yɛn ho nnɛ biara na yɛsrɛ sɛ ɔbɛhyɛ n'anan mu. Bɔ wɔkɔ a Kelvin no so ɔban dwuma a wɔdi na wɔtwe mu nyinaa no de so hyɛ n'anan mu ma yɛn. Na biribi akɔ yɛ ne nkamfo ma wo. Yɛda wo ase wei ne adom pii ne sɛ wɔ Christ Jesus anim nti. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.